Hey, Patrick Curtis, CEO and founder of Wall Street Oasis. Have a great chat with Charles today. Charles came to us when he was a sophomore at Carnegie Mellon. He joined us late. He joined us in November, right before on-cycle recruiting. Listen to what happened. He was targeting either private equity or investment banking. He knew private equity was a long shot. He ended up getting to final rounds at a few middle market banks, but couldn't convert. But then out of nowhere, he was able to land a very highly coveted software private equity role for his junior summer internship. So super excited for him. Take a listen. Enjoy. All right, Charles, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
So it'd be awesome if you could just give everybody kind of a short summary bio, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Of course. So, hi everyone, I'm Charles. Currently, I'm a sophomore at Carnegie Mellon. I'm doing a double major in finance and statistics and machine learning, originally from Westford, Massachusetts.
Nice. Are you a Celtics fan?
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
You
You're
got it.
you're from Mass. You know I'm from Mass too.
Oh,
Uh,
no way.
yeah, I was born in Brookline, grew up north of the city in Andover.
That's sick.
Yeah, yeah. So awesome. So let's start back kind of before Carnegie Mellon. I'd love to hear like going through high school, did you have any kind of exposure to finance? Were you thinking, hey, this is what I want to do long term? Talk to me a little bit about kind of heading into your freshman year and just like, is that like, can I think Carnegie Mellon's more considered like more of like a like
Yeah,
a
for
computer
sure.
science,
You
right? So talk to me a little
you
bit
get that
about
vibe when you
that.
go here too.
What's
So,
that?
you get that vibe when you go here too.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
So
fun.
talk to me a little bit about that. Like, was it something you discovered at Carnegie Mellon, or you kind of knew finance before kind of going in?
Yeah, so I was introduced to finance back in high school. So I did a club called DECA, which was a competitive business club. And specifically, I competed in the finance section. So I got like some brief exposure and I thought it would be interesting to explore.
Hmm.
Back in high school, I did a lot of like math, like quantity focused stuff. And
Hmm.
so I wanted to like get a bit of balance between like finance and some more technical skills. And so Carnegie Mellon seemed like a pretty good place to balance the two. It had a pretty decent finance program and also is, of course, as you mentioned, well known for like analytical technical skills. And so coming here, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something finance related, but I didn't even know like what investment banking was or what PE was. And so came here and explored a bunch. And that's how I kind of figured out what I really wanted to do.
That's awesome. So, okay, you in the first year, was it something like, okay, by the end of your first year was like, now I know what like investment banking is, now I know what private equity is. Was it on your like radar that like you could even potentially land something in private equity straight out of school, or what was it? What was your thought process on that?
Yeah, so I would talk to a lot of upperclassmen about like what the path was, and every single one of them said, you can break into PE, but it's really hard. Like the typical way is to go through investment banking, do 2 years, and then exit into PE. But there was one upperclassman who did go directly into PE. So I talked to him a lot, and he like recommended the path if he thought like if I was interested in that. And so like going into recruiting after my freshman year, I was like, I'm gonna try because like well like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I don't want to like regret not trying.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is you joined us kind of right before on cycle
Yeah,
started.
for sure.
So, or like even yeah, I guess you could say right before because you joined us in November, but you were in the December cohort.
Yeah.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about just like, so you kind of knew what you wanted maybe end of freshman year. You did a summer at a PE fund, right? Your freshman summer,
It was actually my sophomore fall semester. And
fall
so
semester. So how did you even land that? Was it networking? Talk to me a little bit about like just kind of what you were trying to build in terms of brand going into recruiting.
yeah, it was just random applying on some kind of job board. I knew like going into recruiting, I wanted to have some kind of finance related internship because I didn't have it yet. And
Hmm.
so I applied to like a lot of different things. I knew search funds were pretty big, especially for like a first year internship. And so I applied for one. I was no networking. I was just lucky I got it. And so I was pretty happy about that. Of
It was a search fund kind of thing. So a little bit
course,
easier to get than like a pure investment position. But
of
yeah, that's
course. Yep.
awesome. That's awesome. So helped brand you a little bit. And then you had also kind of done a little bit of VC, right?
So yeah, I joined a club at my school
Okay.
for venture capital. And
Yep.
so it wasn't super helpful, but I kind of like it was a talking point.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. So then you're kind of going into recruiting. You're kind of at this point, let's say when you joined us in November, had you started ramp, you're thinking, hey, maybe investment banking, maybe private equity. Were you ramping up your networking at that point? Like, when did you come across Academy and decide, hey, I'm gonna actually join this?
It
What?
was pretty much like in November. And so
Okay.
like I did a little bit of networking beforehand, but really nothing substantial. And
Yeah.
so going into that was when I knew like I had to get like a little bit of like help in figuring out how to like start networking, how to really push for it. And that is like kind of what kind of drove me to join the academy.
Got it. So yeah, that was like early November. So I'm like when I have sophomores joining from like November through January, it just always stresses me out because
Yeah.
it's like a race against time because the networking
Yep.
isn't something you can just do in a week. It's something that
Yep.
builds over time and the advantages build over time. So tell me about like when you came in, I assume you did like the CV review right away, resume review, LinkedIn profile
Yep.
audit. Did you just launch your networking right away, like right in November with our help, or how did you scale that up?
Yeah, it pretty much started in November. I think I started sending out more emails. I like over winter break, I started like really ramping it up, and then going into January, I was like sending a bunch like every week.
Nice. And how did you split that up in terms of private equity versus banking? And then talk to me a little bit about numbers, like number of calls you were able to land and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I pretty much only network for investment banking because like placement into PE like from my school is very minimal. And
Yeah.
so there's not too many places to network at. So I was like sending out like dozens per week, I would say. I don't remember the exact number, but I was targeting like 3 networking calls a week. And I
Hmm.
think I managed to hit that, which was definitely helpful in the process.
Nice. And so we know where you ended up. So kind of, I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but like, so when did the private equity opportunity kind of arise? Was it later in the process? Talk to me a little bit about that. And then did you get through higher views? Did you have any super days? Talk to me a little about like how that progressed.
Yes, so for this one specifically, I got the first round in like mid February. And
Okay.
so I did that. The week after was the second round. And then actually I got ghosted for like a full month before I finally heard back for the Super Day, which was kind of crazy. It
Oh my gosh. So it was like almost March by that point?
was third week of March.
Oh my gosh. So this
Yeah.
is for those of you kind of curious what we're talking about. This is a software private equity fund that does they do the internship and then they typically give like full-time offers coming out of
Yeah.
that.
It's a pipeline into full time.
So this was kind of like the dream job, but in the meantime, were you getting any like final round interviews or progress at the banks?
Yes, so I got I pretty much only heard back from like middle market banks.
Hmm.
So I had interviews at a Key Bank and Solomon.
Hmm.
And so those were the two main investment banks that I interviewed for.
Hmm.
Those happened honestly pretty much concurrent with a little bit before LLR, but pretty much similar timeline.
Nice. Okay, so it was like mostly February, which sounds it's like pretty much all right on cycle.
Yeah,
And okay, so you're kind of going through all these. You have a first round, a second round, and then you're ghosted for a month. At this point, what are you thinking? Are
yeah,
you thinking it's all over? Like it didn't
yeah.
work out,
I
or
was
what's going through your
pretty
mind
nervous,
at this
not gonna
point?
lie.
Like, did you get super
Yeah.
days at Key or at Solomon?
I got a Super Day at Key. Unfortunately, it didn't convert into an offer, but
Okay.
that was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we would have had to keep doing a lot of work with you if this this private
Yeah.
equity fund didn't work out. So tell me what happened. Like, so what was this super day like? At this point, what was going through your process where you're like, uh-oh, like this is not good? Because typically we like what I like to say is I like to see 100 calls to 10 first rounds to 5 super days to 1 to 2 offers, right? That's a
Yeah.
safer way about it. If you're going at the 40 to 60-ish call mark, it can happen. What happened to you is you get two or three first rounds, 1 super day or something like that, and then it's very much a crapshoot if you're only getting one at bat at the super day.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like
Yeah.
at this point, this was when I did the Super Day, it was the last process I was in at the time. And so it was like this or bust. So I was pretty worried. This Super Day was in person, so they flew me out to Philly.
Hmm.
And it was 4 behaviorals and 1 case study that I prepped for beforehand. So
You were able to, awesome. Okay, and then talk to me a little bit about how you leverage this most, because I know you did a lot of hours. When you had this kind of final case study and Super Day coming, were you obviously focusing more on like software PE mocks and
yeah.
stuff like that?
Yep. And so
Awesome.
I know that there's a few mentors who do specialize in software PE, and so
Mhm.
they helped a lot with technical prep on that end.
Yeah, did you feel like, did you look at the VC course as well, making sure you knew all like the cohort analysis, that stuff, or more just,
Actually, not that side. I think I focus more on like the LBO technicals.
got it. Very cool. Okay, so was it hard? Was the case hard? Were they like grilling you, or was it more just like standard?
Honestly, it was pretty chill. Yeah, it was pretty standard. It was pretty much mostly qualitative analysis and seeing like how you think through an investment qualitatively.
Yeah.
Uh, the technical part was actually mostly in the second round.
Got it. Okay. So you kind of get there, you get the you do the case, and how long before you hear back? I know you'd been ghosted like a month there, so was it another like long wait or was it fast?
I heard back 3 hours later when I was in the airport waiting for my flight back.
Which is the best feeling ever.
Oh, it was so good.
You see
Yep.
that phone call? You see that phone call? Okay, so obviously you accepted on the spot, or what did you say? You're just like, Yes, absolutely," or something.
I was like, yeah,
That's
like no.
great. Well, it's funny because it's a lot of people like software PE for a lot of people is like, oh, the promise that like they want to get to that, like that's
Yeah.
their end goal, and they go through banking because they want to get there. You were
Mhm.
able to get there directly. What do you think it was about your like story? Was it, you think it was something special? Because that was I'm sure a super competitive process. What do you think helped you stand out? Was it someone you connected with really well, like on the VP level? Because it's a little bit peculiar that you didn't have as much success on the IB side. And I know you were a little bit more branded towards PE because of the search fund, but usually it's
Yep.
not that extreme where like you see, you know, somebody land an incredibly difficult position in buy side, which is you're competing against all the top kids versus
Right.
somebody then not converting at least like a middle market offer on the IB
Yeah.
side. So tell me about what you think was different there.
So I actually didn't network at this firm at all. I got really lucky in the fact that they even chose to give me a first round. But
Hmm.
I think, like you mentioned, I had the PE internship.
Hmm.
Also, I'm a portfolio manager at a school student fund, and
Hmm.
specifically on the tech sector. And so I think like it was kind of like I showed a lot of interest specifically in tech and in
Hmm.
PE, which kind of like was pretty much aligned perfectly with the job.
That's awesome. Do you think was the search fund at all looking at software too companies at all? It was.
Not actually, no. It was more like services related businesses.
Got it. But you were able to kind of still take what you did with the student fund and kind of brand yourself in
Yeah,
there.
I kind of use those two as like my story to shape it in the behavioral interviews.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So kind of looking back, anything you would have kind of changed now, kind of looking through your process, it's now what we're in April. Anything you would have done differently? I mean, obviously it all worked out and it's great. But
Yep.
yeah, anything kind of looking back or advice you give to people in a similar spot?
I think so. I think I got pretty lucky in the fact that I was looked at, like my resume even got looked at. I think looking back, I probably would have networked a lot harder and
Mhm.
earlier. Because like, once things get to like January, February, everyone's reaching out to like the people at the banks and it's a lot harder to get a call. And
Yeah.
so I think starting even in the fall, there's a lot, your conversion rate for networking calls gets a lot higher. And so I think I
Yeah.
would start earlier.
Yeah, it's really interesting because what we tell our students is like, the earlier you start with us, usually the higher success. So the
Yeah.
freshmen have the highest success
Yep.
rate, whereas like the
I'd imagine.
sophomores are also high, but it's as you get closer to like November, December, January, it starts dropping
Right.
because it's like we don't have as much time to work with you and we don't have as much time. Like we still have like under the gun. I've had people who needed a visa that joined in January
Wow.
and still placed at like Centerview.
That's
Now,
incredible.
but like really we're behind, but we're really obviously very sharp and we're able to pull it off. But it's always stressful when I have sophomores joining like middle of the year.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
It's like, oh no, here we go. We got to race it. Luckily the team's great, so we can get you guys, most of the way there. And the good part about it is if you're really sharp and like you don't give up, even if it hadn't worked out, like we would have kept going, right? And trying to grind and trying to get you something in high finance or in
Yep.
PE, if not PE, something in banking at like a boutique or something like that. Which I'm confident we would have been able to do for you because I think you come across as super authentic. Which is super interesting about you was your mocks. I can see on your dashboard just got better and better and better. So
Yeah.
clearly, like you were making strides every time you got on a call with mentors, and so like it was from the point where it was just like good or slightly below average to like well above average, which is great because the people you're getting ranked against on the percentiles inside the academy are obviously all very driven too. So if you're ranking like well above average there, you're doing something right. So yeah, man, congratulations. I'm super proud. You obviously pulled it off, and of course, I'd love for you to stay in touch.
Of course, thank you for all the help too. I really appreciate. Couldn't have done it without the academy.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.